Hey guys, it's time for Breakthrough with Coach Lew. Coming to you live from Studio 700 at Revitalize Life Fitness and Life Coaching. Coach Lew will help you break through anything that's stopping you. Are you ready to get the body, the energy, and success you deserve? With no further ado, here's Coach Lew.
All right, here we are, guys. It is Monday morning and we are on the air. Every time you do something in life, one thing if I'm going to share with you before we even hit the studio and hit what we're doing this morning is I'm going to remind you that you've always got to have some padding. If you think something takes 10 minutes, like setting up the stream for us to transmit and so forth, give yourself 20. Because there's always one extra little step that you're going to have to do. So, on that note, do you feel like you missed out? Or did you step up and do your must? And the question is, and that missed is not M-I-S-S-E-D, it's M-Y-S-T-D. And you might be going, okay, I thought you misspelled that, Coach. But that stands for make yourself step up today. That is what will make the key viral difference in your outcomes in life. Have you ever sat back and said to yourself, if only I had known, if only I had done, if I had been in the right place, stepped up when I should have, I'd be a whole lot further ahead now, today, if I had done X, Y, or Z, right? Have you ever done that? Okay, if you say no, you're lying to me. And if you say yes, you kind of feel like, crap, I got to admit I failed, right? So you've got to look at that and go, this is a touchy situation. Because let me tell you something. There have been times when I know I should have stepped up and didn't step up, didn't take action at that time. And you know what? It certainly felt like failure. But in the spirit of what we do, I learned to take that quote-unquote failure and learn how to use it for growth so that it never happens again. Make sense? So instead of going, oh, I failed, I missed out, how can when the next great opportunity comes up, how can when the next, when I'm facing something, a challenge that I need to step up, how can I make sure I truly step up? So I must do it, right? Okay, so let's step into this, guys. The good news is you're not alone. I've done this. Your mom, your dad, your husband, your wife, your kids. We've all done this. We have missed out on opportunity because we didn't make it a must. And this is a play on acronyms here, but I'm going to explain more about how this works. So gotta agree with me here. Agree with me on something before we go forward. Have we all given ourselves a proverbial kick in the ass and said, oh my God, I missed out on that opportunity, or I screwed up, or I shouldn't have done that because now I'm paying the consequences? Well, the biggest reason that we miss out on opportunity is that we don't make it a must. And a must is not only I must do this, you make it a must in your heart and soul. There's one thing that you must do something because somebody else is pushing you to do it. Then there's the other where it's to make yourself step up. Yourself spelled like the kids texted, YOURSELF. So it makes up the acronym because we want that because, the MYST, make yourself step up, today is a great one too, but it says missed. So we want to make it so that you are stepping up. It's so funny because I'm wearing this sweatshirt today. That was not planned, by the way. So what is the biggest reason that we miss out on something and we don't make it a must? What's the biggest thing that gets in the way? Fear. Fear of the unknown is one of the major contributors to missing out on anything in life, but the real reason is you didn't make it a must. But fear is the predecessor to most of that. oh, if I do that, I might might screw up. If I leave my job and open a business, what if it fails? So what if it fails? You learn, you go start over again. You're not going to go live under a bridge. Not if you're the type of person who starts a business. Okay, not if you're a real entrepreneur at the grit. And you might go, that's not my goal to be an entrepreneur. I want to move up in my company. Okay, not if you're somebody who's driven to move up in your company. Your grit is not, maybe you take a shot at a position and it falls out. Maybe you switch jobs because you had so much more opportunity and something comes along unforeseen and squashes that company you went to work for. Then what? What happens then? Whoa. You got to go, okay, what do? I step back up, learn my lesson, dust off, and go forward. Let's look at an example. Have you ever had a great idea that would work? You thought of something, you're like, oh my God, society needs this. This is great. And you get excited and you're like, I'm going to bring this to market, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to step up. I'm going to teach this. And time goes by and, it's a good idea and it's yours. Nobody's going to get that idea. So you kind of put it aside because you got kids or whatever, life, work, not enough money to start that website, whatever the BS excuse was. And you thought about it and said that years later, you see that somebody else is doing this and they're winning big. They're cranking it. They're making millions and you're still working for minimum wage, but it was your idea. What's the first thing you say? That SOB took my idea. Took your idea. That's a concept. They came in your brain and took out that file, right? But seriously. And then you go, well, if I had the money, I could have done it first. If I had the resources, I could have done it first. If I didn't have kids, I could have focused more time on business. If I was more educated. Or I should have. You can shit all over yourself all day long, or you can make it a must. So those are just resources. The lack of resources is not the issue. It's the lack of resourcefulness. How many people have we seen that were massively successful at what they do? Now, I'll use Mother Teresa for an example. And you go, well, she wasn't massively successful. She basically lived like a pauper. But she was massively successful at what she made a must, and that was helping others. She wasn't born with a golden spoon in her mouth. She wasn't, she scraped and begged and pleaded, but then gave everything away because that was her mission. I'd say she was living her must. Even if you would say, well, that's not my goal. Okay, that may not be your goal, but people find the resources when they get resourceful. Okay, that is not, an excuse, because in this day and age, sometimes the only resource you need is a cell phone. I've got this beautiful studio built, okay, and we've got great equipment and great things that, really bring the quality to life and make it easier to produce. But honestly, look at the drive-in this morning. I stick on my phone, I stick it in the holder, and I talk to you. Okay, that would be sufficient if I had no other resources. That resourcefulness is going, okay, I can do this with a cell phone if I have to. Now, that started that way, and it's grown into something bigger and better because I made it a must. I made it a must to get more, I don't know how you would even say it, professional or more fun or more something that's more supportive of what I do than just sticking a cell phone on a tripod. But my God, if that's all you got is a cell phone and a tripod and you want to start doing live casts, you can't tell me you don't have the resources. You're just not being resourceful. Then you might say, well, Coach Lew, you have this, these streaming services and all this stuff. And, I can't afford that. There was a point I couldn't afford it. And you know what I did? I got it anyway. Oh, and that was a harsh pill to swallow. If it costs how much and you got to pay for the year up front for this type of service, and whoa, I made the resources come true. And that's what the difference is. So you can't really use that. But the one thing that I've heard it put and a lot of motivational speakers use this, but when you want something as bad as you want to breathe, that's when you succeed. And people go, "Oh, breathing's the most important." Of course. But when you have that kind of fire in you, that you wake up and you can't wait to get on it. You go to bed at night, you have ideas. This morning's show came to me at 3 a.m. because I knew kind of what I was after, but I didn't have the acronym and the push to it. It was like, I know what I want to say. I want to tell everybody you got to make it a must. You've got to live it. You've got to have it in here. And you can't just be in here. And good ideas go to the graveyard. Passion comes out. But I'm like, how do I put this forth? I can sit there and tell you, well, it's got to be more than an idea. And then you got to do this. And you go, okay, you're boring as all heck, coach. What drives me? And I'm like, missed. Let me use this. And I was like, oh, dang. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and get an idea. And I wake up in the morning and I'm like, it's gone. So a good resource is a pen and paper by the bed. So when you have a great idea. So sometimes it's hard to find the ability to make something a must because we lack one thing in particular. That's the power of why. And if you've been following this show for any amount of time, you know what the power of why is. If not, hunt it down on the site, revitalizelife.com. Go on the blog and type in power of why, because this is what drives from the soul. This is what drives you. Whatever your connection, whether it's your connection to God, your connection to yourself, your children, your spouse, your business, your community, your power of why are you doing this is what's going to keep you going when it's not fun. When you're doing something and you're doing your passion and you're making it a must, it isn't surfing, the perfect wave or snowboarding through the Alps and you never fall down. No, you hit branches, you get dumped on your face by the wave, whatever it is, however you want to do an analogy there, you get your ever-living butt kicked in the process. The power of why is that most important force that'll keep you going when it comes to making yourself step up. Must. Make yourself, literally, because that's how it makes the acronym, step up. Must. Awesome idea. You want to know how to do it? I got a simple formula. It's teach time right here now. So, the simple formula. Well, actually, it's quite complex. Simple formula for making something a must. Number one, and write this down. We'll go through these nice and slow for you. If you're driving, pull your butt over. It'll take 3 minutes to get through this, 4 minutes. It's worth it for your day, especially on a Monday morning. Know what you are after. What is it you're going for? What is this must? What are you going after? Are you going after opening a business? Are you going after being a better parent? Is it a financial goal? Is it a health goal? What exactly are you after? Not kind of. You can't go, I'd like to make some more money. I'd like to lose a few pounds. I'd like to get healthier. That is the same crap as everybody else does. And it's just an idea or, a should. Remember, when you're shoulding down your leg. You're shoulding all over your leg. Shoulding all over the floor. Because that's where should goes, is down. Must goes up. Okay? So number two, develop that compelling power of why. Why do you want it as bad as you want to breathe? Why is it so important to you? Well, if I don't make this much money, I can't get my child this surgery that will save their life. Oh my God, how about that for a must? As opposed to, well, I'd kind of like my kid to be a little healthier, but I guess, so they got this disease and they're going to just, wither away. No, you would do anything in the world for your children. Somebody puts a gun to your kid's head and says, you got to come up with 10 grand by tomorrow morning or I'm pulling this trigger. I think you would do it. Somebody says, if you say, I'd like to make $10,000 a day, as I'm sitting here watching TV in my skivvies and drinking a beer, ain't going to happen. You see the difference there. And I'm not recommending people go put guns to your kids' heads to get your spouse to, pay off the bills. But what I'm saying is if you had that kind of drive, say, for instance, you pull up and go home and your house is on fire. Well, it's really burning, it's rolling. Are you going to run in there to go get, tonight's dinner? Probably not. It's probably a whole lot more important things and you're not going to risk your life. Your child is in their bedroom still and you don't try to do something to save them? You're not much of a human being. But you see the difference there, that power of why. Why would you run into a burning building? Because my kid's in there. Why would you run into a burning building? Because my KFC is in there, my Kentucky Fried Chicken. I think the second one doesn't have the compelling power of why. And I know I use ridiculous examples, but that's how different it is. When you make it a must with that power of why, saving your kid's life compared to saving your Kentucky Fried Chicken from burning on the table are two different things. One of them, you're going to go, F the chicken. The other one, you're going to go, I'm going to do what I got to do. And that's what keeps you on track. And I know I use really extreme examples, and not every example is that extreme in real life, but sometimes it is. Step 3, create a detailed and goal-oriented plan. Now, creating a detailed plan, sometimes you feel like you can never shift gears during that plan because I set this and this this is what I said I was going to do. Sometimes it's not about the do as much as it is about the outcome. Okay? So let me use a financial. Say you go, you're making $100K a year right now. And some people might go, wow, I only wish. And other people would be like, I'd be bankrupt doing that. No judgment. I don't care either way, but we're going to use it for numbers' sake. So you're making $100K this year. You want to make $200K next year. And you set up this, you know what you're after exactly. It's $200K. It's not, I want to make some more bucks. You develop a compelling power of why. Well, because I want a home. I want a home that belongs to my family and not, rent anymore, whatever. Whatever the thing is, or I want to take this dream vacation or start this amazing business. You create this detailed goal-oriented plan. 365 days go by. You have stuck to it. You have done what you're supposed to do, and guess what? You're at 190. You failure, you. No. Some people are saying, like, hell, I failed. I made $90,000 more than I did last year. And others are going, yeah, I failed, all right. Really? Did you really fail? See, that's where I'm going to talk about here, the next steps of tracking your progress and celebrating your wins. But if you had never set the goal in the first place, you might have made $100,000, 105. That's about it. You're not going to double your income without a plan and without a good, compelling power of why, unless you win the damn lotto. So with that, and you make the extra 90, did you win or did you lose? To me, 90 extra grand a year is a win. You've almost doubled your income. Say, contrast that with, okay, I'm making 100 grand, I'm doing okay, and, my boss gave me a 5% raise. So you make 105. Because you didn't know what you were after. You didn't develop a plan. You didn't have the power of why. So you didn't succeed. So as you're going into step 4, you're going to track your progress. So you want to make an extra 100 grand this year. That means you got to make an extra 25,000 a quarter, which means of course I had to pick this one. So I'm going to wing it on this. So 25, about eight and change a month more you got to make. See, I should have picked better numbers so it was easier to do the math. But no, seriously. So you track your progress, and each month, each week, each year, each quarter, each half a year, year. Where are you at? Are you ahead of the game? Good. Keep pushing because there could be a setback in there. Are you behind the game? How much fuel do you need to add to the fire? This is where tracking is so important. And then celebrate your wins. It's not only that at the end of the year, I did it, I made $200,001, I beat my goal, now I can celebrate, when all year you were miserable because you were worried and stressed and all that. Celebrate along the way. All right, my first month I'm ahead of the game. My first month I'm a little behind the game, but man, if I grown and if I learned, I'm still way ahead of where I would be. Maybe you failed out. Maybe the first month you tried something that you knew would work and it screwed up, and you're like, you don't trash it. You go, how can I do it different next month? Because now I got to do even better. And you look at the overall win. And failures often lead to massive growth. And one thing you must understand clearly is the fact that the closer you are to getting to your goal, the more you're going to get pushback. And that it's important that if you get really close to your goal, you're still a whole lot better off than if you hadn't set the goal, hadn't set the plan. You might not call it a goal, you might call it an outcome, whatever you want to call it, because some people are like, I'm not into all that goal setting stuff. Okay, well, you have an outcome, you have something you desire. Call it your desire. See, I'm going to tell you a quick story, and you've heard the story before if you followed me, but I'm going to really summarize it for you. Years ago, just before it was going into the real estate crash. Lexi was 6, something like that, and I went out rollerblading because that was my clear my head thing. Lived by a cool trail, would go skate my guts out, and it was good. It was a release because there was a lot of stuff going on, personal life, a lot of stuff going on, business, real estate was tanking, and I had a lot of properties, and it was like, oh my God, everything was just like imploding. So I'd go out and do that. I'd feel better. It was my emotional release. So I go out and, back then we didn't have iCloud backup and that. I didn't even have an iPhone. But, what do you have when your kids are little? Lots of pictures, lots of videos, because they're doing all this cool stuff. Well, I'm out there and, this was before music and wireless headphones, so I had a separate MP3 player. I get back and it just starts to rain. I get back and I go in the house and I'm like, oh my God, my phone, I lost my phone. I go back out in the rain. It's pouring, it's thundering, it's lightning. I'm scouring every part of that trail. And when you're going that fast, that phone bounces off into the woods or something. And after a while, I'm soaking wet about an hour later and I come back and I am defeated because I'm like, even if my phone is out there, it's in under 2 inches of water, it's done. And it wasn't the stupid phone. I could have given a care or less. I can go buy another phone. I can go to the store and buy another phone 15 minutes and get my number transferred. It was the pictures, the memories, the recordings, the life that was captured on there, and I was heartbroken. And I'm walking up and I'm like, I guess it is what it is. What do you do? At this point, I felt I had done everything I could do. And I'm standing there and, my head's down and I look and there's my phone on my steps going into the house. Undamaged, unwet because of the overhang. My whole point to it was I gave up right before I won. I had actually given up right that just always, and that's where people do it. They work so hard. It's so tough. They go through so many hurdles and they go, this doesn't work. And they drop the ball and give up right before they were to hit their goal or right before the door was to open or they were to find their phone, as in my case. That's my message to you today, guys. Don't ever give up because it gets tough. You might take a different direction. Look at, vinyl's back, but look at cassette tapes. When CDs came along, if you sat there and said, I'm going to still make the best cassette tapes in the world, it was a dying industry. But the smart companies went, oh, these new CDs, they're going to kick the cassette industry's butt. Let's go into producing those. Let's make MP3s. Let's adjust. We still want to be in the music business. If that person's goal was to be in the music business, but they were too hard-headed to see that cassettes were no longer going to be the seller, and they refused to switch because it's part of their plan, and they got 4 more years on the cassette marketing plan. After 4 years of trying to compete with CDs, they're gone. So they didn't have to get out of their original goal of being in the music business and maybe making X amount of dollars. They had to go, what is the avenue? Which road do I take? You use GPS, right? Have you ever seen it where it shows 5 different routes and they're all within 2 or 3 minutes of each other? And you go, which one should I take? And then you go, I'm awfully dependent on these electronics because I know how to get there anyway. But maybe that tool is useful because one of those has red on it, and that means there's a lot of traffic. And even though it might be similar time destination, do you want to put yourself through driving through that stop and go traffic when the other one you might be able to go out and around a bit, but you're tooling along and you can be listening to something that makes you feel good on the radio, not trying to pay attention to what idiot's trying to cut in the lane in front of you and blah, blah, blah. These are the things you start to learn to be able to adjust during your tracking and go, hey, wait a minute. things have changed a little bit. The outcome's changed. The main goal is still there, but, the road to get there has got to change because there's some hurdles in the old way of doing things. Keep your open mind on stuff, guys. And remember, just because you say that this is what I'm going to do doesn't mean you have to do it either. Say your goal today is to make $1,000 and you got to do 20 things. You got to sell 20 products to do that. Well, what if somebody walks in your office first thing in the morning and orders all 20 products between 9 and 9:30? Do you still need to make all those cold calls that you were going to make? Do you still need to, go in the warehouse and shoot more pictures? You may have hit that outcome. Doesn't mean you just go, okay, I'm going to kick back and not do anything for the day. But it does mean, okay, your outcome's there. Now what can you build upon that? As opposed to going, well, I still got to go through the steps. I still got to go and see, what 20 items you already sold the 20. So instead of going, okay, my first thing was to go in the warehouse and pick out 20 items to advertise, you sold those off the bat. You don't have to do that. You might do it still because you might go, hey, I have an opportunity to double today. But you've got to get it in your heart and soul that it's the outcome you're after, not to check things off your list. Have you ever had a day where you had stuff on your list and you checked off the whole list, and at the end of the day you just totally felt burned out and like nothing really got accomplished, but you got your list done? Then there's other days you make this to-do list and all of a sudden something changes, but you have a phenomenal day and it's like, oh my God, I wish every day was like this. And you look at your to-do list and 2 things got done, and all of a sudden it drains your energy from that amazing day, that amazing win, because you're like, oh, I didn't finish my list. You won. It's not about finishing lists, it's about outcome. What if you have a child who has a learning disability and they say, well, this is the plan to get your child to learn to read. And, it's a 2-year process. And in the process, something new comes out that's good for dyslexia or whatever the case would be. And in 30 days, your kid's reading fine. Are you still going to make them go through that step for 2 to 3 years? All those steps, and when it's cured, there was a new program that came out, and they did this program, and they can read fine. Are you still going to go back to that antiquated dinosaur that was going to take years and go, well, I said I was going to do this plan? Plans can change as long as your focus stays on the goal. Approaches can change as long as your focus stays on that outcome. And if you hit that outcome, don't rest on your laurels. Celebrate like heck if you hit it early. Go for what's next. How can I make this even better? Wow, that got on a little bit of a rant. So, in summary, an idea by itself is an idea. An idea mixed with passion is not but a dream. An idea mixed with passion, a plan, and massive action, fueled by the power of why, becomes a must. Making yourself step up. Bam. That's it. That's the summary right there, guys. That is it. When you have all the components of your life, it becomes one that others say, hey, that was my idea. And you say, hey, that was my must. Doesn't matter who came up with the idea first. All right, guys. So I'm going to cut you short. Well, not short. We're about at our time this morning. I appreciate everybody hanging in. Hope you had gotten massive value from today. And being as though we're rounding the bend and talking about goals, 2021 goal setting workshop on New Year's Day coming up. So be ready for that. More details to follow. I'll let you know the exact times, etc. But you want to be on this one because 2020 may not have gone nearly as planned. 2020 may have been one of your toughest years when it was supposed to be one of our best years, and it may have been your best year. Not everybody hated 2020. Now, was it easy? No. Did some people thrive? Did some people learn some new distinctions? Did some great stuff happen in 2020? Yes. The one thing I've noticed, driving around and so forth, I see a lot more Christmas decorations. I see a lot more neighbors that normally drive by, looking at the steering wheel, kind of making eye contact and waving. I see a lot more, community coming out. And then I see a lot of, a little bit of the opposite where people are hateful and fearful and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, I think people are realizing the world is not coming to an end. We're coming to a beginning of starting with your community, taking care of your community, taking care of your family locally. There's no government going to take care of us. We don't want a socialist government shack. Some do. Lazy people do. Somebody who needs help, that's a different story. There are people who are disabled, etc., that need government help. But most of us really don't want to be lazy and collect a check. Most of us would much rather have the freedom to succeed. And that's where starting with you, your community. If somebody needs help in your community, reach out to them and help them out. Don't sit there and go, that's the government's responsibility. No, it's our responsibility. Your neighbor needs a little bit of help, you help them. That's the way it's supposed to be. So have a lot of compassion, but a beautiful thing is we're rounding out of 2020. I think most of us are going to go, it's okay to say and put it in our rearview mirror and take a lot of our learning tools. What did we learn? How did we survive? Some people, this was basic survival training this year. Some people thrive. There are people that made more money than they could ever imagine. There are people that have had more good fortune. There's been people that have had horrible misfortune. But the thing is, if you're watching this, you're still standing. Whether you got your butt beat this year, whether it took you to the next level, whether you made some great distinctions, whether you had sad times, glad times, whatever it was, 2020, you're going to look at some point and go, now I see in 2020 what that brought to me. Take whatever this year brought to you and let it build for a greater 2021. God bless you all. See you on the next roundabout and have an amazing, amazing day. And we're going to rock and roll here and get this baby kicked off. And I will see you on the next show. Have an awesome day. Coach Lew here, revitalizelife.com, xlr8life.com for Accelerate Life University. Visit with us, guys. We got a lot of great stuff coming up for the new year. Be blessed. Be safe.